All right. Good morning for real this time. This is Cristina and Sara from One Woman Shop, a resource hub and membership community for female solo business owners. And this is our weekly episode of The Hot Seat, where we pretty much riff on topics that we've heard questions about or have been brought to our attention by community members or just amongst ourselves. So today we're particularly excited because we have a very relevant topic and it's very general, but also very specific. So we're going to be talking about blogging.
Yes, blogging as a solopreneur. So we both have quite a fair amount of experience with blogging, both individually and then together as One Woman Shop. So Sara, do you want to tell a little bit about your blogging history?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because I wish my history went back a little further, and blogging, I wish I had started much sooner than I did, because I didn't really start blogging until, well, it's debatable. I was going to say when I started my solopreneur biz in 2013, but it still took a couple months to get off the ground. And it's only now that I'm being really consistent for my business. But it is obviously a service I offer. And so I've been blogging pretty much nonstop since I started my business, and even in the months before that, because it is something I do for clients everywhere. And then clearly for One Woman Shop. So Cristina, I think your history goes back a little further than mine.
Yeah, but first I have to say you also wrote a little course about it. So this is coming from an expert, Sara Frandina, of Sara Frandina Strategies over here. Don't worry, we'll put that in the show notes, that link. Yeah, so I started with a personal blog back in, probably 2010. So when I was in college, and it was, looking back at it, it's just so painful. The photos are terrible and it's awful. So luckily I've learned a lot since then. But I started out with a personal blog, doing recipes and random things around DC, and then carried that to my time in North Carolina and blogged a lot about stuff going on in the city. But now we actually both blog individually still, and then as One Woman Shop. So we got a question already in the chat. Awesome, right off the bat. Do we take turns blogging, or does one of you do it? And so that's in reference to One Woman Shop, obviously. Sara, do you want to kind of give the rundown on how we blog for One Woman Shop?
Yeah, absolutely. So love that question, Kina. It's a pretty active blog. We try to keep our editorial calendar at about 3 to 4 posts per week. But the way that we manage that is because it's a multi-author blog. So we accept a lot of guest posts, Kina. And so that really does keep our blog running, and we love connecting with guest contributors. And then Cristina and I, when it's something that falls within our expertise, or when we just really want to write about something, we will hop in. One thing that we just started very recently that I know we're both psyched about is a short form column called Shop Talk, where we often have just little notes we want to share, or little thoughts, shorter thoughts, I should say, but still impactful. And that's where we're going to actually be riffing on those things on the blog. So we do, I'd say we have a pretty fair split between the content we actually produce for One Woman Shop, but it's not super planned out.
Yeah, and then I would say in addition to that, we also kind of co-write a lot. So we'll basically start a Google Doc. By the way, side note, we want to do blab bingo because we always say the same thing. And I was like, we always mention Google Docs at least once per blab. So there you go. There's your blab bingo. So we basically start a Google Doc for things like our behind the scenes column. And then I'll put in notes, Sara will put in notes. We both kind of go back and forth and do edits. I think it's safe to say our voices are we both have our individual voices on our own blogs, but in terms of One Woman Shop, we're kind of just like merging into the same person and the same voice, which is good for consistency.
Yeah.
So sometimes we'll even say, I'll be like, did you write that or did I write that? I can't remember.
That's my favorite, when I go back to something and I'm just like, it sounds like something I'd write, but I don't remember writing that.
Yeah. Or like, that idea, that's a wonderful idea. Now, is that my wonderful idea or Sara's wonderful idea?
Yeah. Okay. So
yeah. And so
go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, we'll talk a little bit more about this, but one thing we've kind of obliquely mentioned is that content can take a lot of different forms. So it can be, is that where you're going to go?
No, but this is good.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it can be short, long, it can be videos embedded in your blog, which is what we've been doing with these blabs. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that, but it doesn't have to be pure posts that are 500 to 700 words.
Right. Yeah. No, and we'll definitely get way more into that. But I was just going to say, so Kina asked another question. We'll definitely get to that. But let's talk about really just the basics, like why blog? Because I clearly talk about this all the time because it's a service I offer, but I also really, truly, firmly believe that blogging can have a huge impact on your business, your personal life, whatever you want to use it for. So Cristina, because I'm a little biased, I'll let you hop in with what you think your top reasons are to blog.
I would not say that I'm unbiased, but I will go. So both from a personal and personal perspective, okay, I've told you guys this on a blab before that I have this cat who peeks in my window and it's just staring at me and it's creeping
really
me
wants
out.
to learn about blogging.
Do you want to blog? Okay, that's good. So no, it's back. Okay, I'm just going to ignore it. So it really gives you a platform and an outlet. And so that can be a creative outlet, that can be a business outlet. Basically, it's a place where you can establish your expertise. So maybe your expertise is creating recipes. Maybe your expertise is running a business. It really gives you a place to showcase all of that. And I won't go too far into it because I want to give you a turn to say your benefits. But in addition to that, we found that it's a really, really good place to basically do what we call teaser content, to talk about the behind the scenes of your business and talk about why you arrived at the decisions that you have made in your business. So we do this, I would say, we did the most with Solopreneur Sanity Handbook. Pretty much like every single post unintentionally became teaser content for that handbook, the launch.
Absolutely. Yeah, those are...
What are your benefits?
Well, building on the fact that you talked about how your blog can give you that platform to build some expertise, it's also a really great place to provide free value. So you're going to hear a lot as you're building a solopreneur business that you should kind of have levels of offerings from free to all the way to your top tier, and things in between. Well, your blog gives you that place where you can offer people insight and value and expertise and knowledge and how-tos that they can access anytime. And it gives you really some credibility with people before you try to sell them on something. So I think that's really, really important. The other thing that I definitely want to get into is that your blog is a platform that you have complete control over. And I can't even stress this enough because right now people are going absolutely nuts about the Instagram algorithm changes and how that's going to change everything. And every time Facebook does this, which obviously they're one and the same now, everybody goes nuts. Well, the beauty of your blog is that you have control over it. Nobody's going to come in and take your post down or choose who sees them. It's up to you. So I do want to say that that is one of the main reasons I will impress upon businesses or solopreneurs that they should really blog.
I like that a lot. And that, I would say that another huge benefit is that it gives people a reason to come to your site. So ideally, people would be like, wow, like Cristina and Sara are so cool. I just have to go check out One Woman Shop. But a lot of times you need like an actual reason. So people will find you obviously through search engines. People will find you when you're posting your blog posts on social media. So it gives them kind of that initial little reason to come visit your site and then hopefully stay, which is why we talk in Building Your Online Community, the e-course, about basically maximizing once people are already on your site. But first you got to get people.
Yeah, it's a great entrance into the rabbit hole.
Exactly. We love when people are like, oh, I fell down the rabbit hole of One Woman Shop. We're like,
yes. So let's get into now, Cristina, for those that don't know, she just restarted a personal blog. So let's get into the whole personal versus professional and niche versus no niche discussion on your blog. Start with personal versus professional. I'd like to hear what inspired you, Cristina, to restart a personal blog.
Yeah, for sure. So, Sara, correct me if I'm wrong, sarafrandina.com. That's it, right? No strategies in there. Okay, cool. I'm dropping the links to where you guys can find us outside of One Woman Shop, but obviously you can always find us through One Woman Shop. So I decided within the past few weeks to restart a personal blog. And so someone asked in our private Facebook group why I decided to do that and not just keep blogging through One Woman Shop, which I definitely will still do. So for me, basically, I felt I have multiple reasons, but basically I felt like my topics that I wanted to talk about on my personal blog were, they can, again, use this word obliquely relate to running a business, but they're not necessarily so closely connected that I can really make a strong enough tie. And so to me, that was a really good reason to use my own platform instead of blogging through One Woman Shop. Whereas topics like, Solopreneur Sanity, we talk about a lot through the short form column on One Woman Shop. And then for me, another reason was just because we have, like we said, we blog a lot on One Woman Shop as ourselves. We have like our monthly columns, and then we have guest posts as well. So we have a pretty full editorial calendar. And so I basically wanted a place where, again, not a negative thing, but I wanted complete control over my blog, where it didn't have to fit into an editorial calendar and it didn't necessarily have to fit into any strategy. I think that strategy has an amazing place on One Woman Shop, but I wanted to kind of free for all.
Absolutely.
Zone.
Yeah. No, I love that. And as Cristina knows, I'm going to be like her number one reader, I'm sure. So
you all the time. Who doesn't want to see themselves mentioned in lights, right? So, okay, before we jump in too much further, can you talk about the purpose of your blog outside of One Woman Shop?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I run my solo business for probably I try to strive for about 50% of my time spent on it. I use my blog, because I sell those services. And oftentimes I want to be a model for what I'm selling, but sometimes that just doesn't work because of the whole, the cobbler's children never have any shoes type thing. But I find that that's a great place for me to talk about the things that I just kind of know, but I don't get to share on a regular basis. So people are coming to me to hire me to blog for them or to hire me to build their content strategy. But then there are people that aren't going to hire me, but they still want to learn that. And that's where I want to be able to share that kind of stuff. And I'm not going to make One Woman Shop a blog entirely about copywriting. So sometimes there's just stuff that just needs to have its own place as well. So that's kind of where and really I still talk about, a lot of solopreneur related stuff on my blog because clearly that's a huge part of my life. But oftentimes if it's something that can really more or less benefit the whole community of female freelancers and business owners, I'll try to get it over on One Woman Shop.
Yeah, well, and you kind of mentioned this, but I just wanted to add in that there are times when a blog post doesn't have a purpose, when it really is just to kind of showcase one of your thoughts. And it's not to generate coaching clients, and it's not to sell a handbook, and it's not necessarily to bring in new copywriting clients. You just want to just share your thoughts. And so that's totally okay. So we both do that in a lot of different ways on our blogs.
So I want to ask you then, clearly your personal blog is that place where you have complete autonomy and you can kind of just share whatever's on your mind. When do you think it's okay to bring in the personal in the professional realm? So bring in the personal stories and anecdotes and vulnerabilities on your actual business blog.
So I'm going to use this example that I wrote in our Blab notes, which is your post. And so I think you did a really good job. So I've actually mentioned this post in another Blab, but it's your post about Halloween. And it is a little personal anecdote about you and your husband, but then you bring it back to business. And I think that is a perfect example of a time when the story makes perfect sense for the lesson. And I have the similar style as well, where I'll be like, I'm looking around, I'm noticing patterns, and then I can bring it back to business. So I would say if you can draw a pretty clear connection and other people can see that connection as well, perfect time to bring in an anecdote because it really helps people relate to you. And so I actually have mentioned this post also, but wrote a post about the Skim and how they use a lot of very specific references to their audience. And so that's one of the biggest reasons why people connect with them is because they're speaking directly to their audience.
Yeah, and you can find out more about that next week on the One Woman Shop blog.
Yay! Finally, no one wanted this post, so we decided to run it on our own.
Yeah, and I just want to build on that because, yes, there are the times where it has like a really clear tie to business, and I love being able to weave that together. But then there are the times where you just want to share something more personal because it gives people insight into how you do business or the type of person you are. And that's going to help the people that you want to work with actually find you.
For sure. And one of our members, Brittany Berger, was just saying in our Facebook group that she was revamping her website, and she was telling us all the different references that she uses. So she's like, I use Parks and Rec references, and just a bunch of different TV shows. And those are things that are really going to speak to your audience. If they love Parks and Rec, they're going to be like, oh, I like this girl. She sounds cool.
Yeah, so really I can't tell you how many times my initial reach out to somebody has been like, and I love Taylor Swift too, because I saw that on their blog, or just some random anecdote like that. It really does give people something to connect to.
Or popcorn. Your thing is popcorn too.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I love it. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up there, so in the whole niche versus no niche conversation, I'm not sure that we're on the same page on this, Cristina, so correct me if I'm wrong, but my general opinion is sometimes it does make life easier if you just choose a niche and stick to it. But your blog is not going to be unsuccessful if it doesn't have a niche. There are plenty of super successful blogs out there that don't claim to have a niche. And one of the things I want to, because basically my blog for my business, I've tried to keep it somewhat undefined, but it does have a certain set of niches, I guess, if you can be plural with that. But then there's always the option where if you write a really spectacular post and you just really don't think it fits into your content strategy, find the site that it does. So that's where guest posting can be really, really helpful, because even if you're writing about something that you're not selling or that you don't normally talk about, there is usually a place for it. And as long as it's written in your voice, it's still giving people a really good glimpse at who you are.
Can you confirm, because it sounded like you kind of were on both sides on that. Mm-hmm. So and that's obviously totally fine, but do you have a stronger opinion one way or the other, like pick a niche or don't?
I think that oftentimes people, it's not that I have like you really should choose a niche or you shouldn't. It's more or less that if not having a niche is stopping you from starting, then choose a niche. If having a niche is stopping you from starting, then don't choose a niche. So basically don't use it as procrastination. And that's how so many times I've seen it used, as just, I haven't started because I can't figure out my niche, or because I've picked this niche and I'm not excited about it.
Yes. Yeah, no, I love that. And I absolutely agree with that. I feel like every single blab, I make some reference to like, well, it depends. It does, everyone can be successful in their own ways. But I truly believe that we have personal examples in the One-on-One Shop community, people who write about everything and anything and are doing great with it, and other people who are so specific and are doing great with it. So that's my annoying Cristina response.
And I see we have a few more people joining, so I'm so glad you guys are here. So far we've talked kind of about reasons to blog, our histories with blogging, the personal versus the professional, and niche versus no niche. So if you need to catch up, we'll have the recording up after, obviously. Okay, so where should we go next, Cristina?
So I'm going to ask you some questions.
Oh boy.
What do you do? Hot seat. What do you do, or what is your best advice for, you have a post, maybe it's your top performing post on your site. Maybe it's a post that's been resonating with your audience a lot and getting a lot of engagement, but you're not either the post doesn't really represent you the best way, but it happens to be getting the most traffic. We have an example. Or you are getting a ton of engagement, but it's not necessarily correlating into sales if this is a business blog. Thoughts?
What do I do with that post? Or what
do you try to replicate the success of that post? Do you just kind of ignore it and see it as an outlier?
Yeah, so I think that the beauty of it is if it's bringing traffic to your site, you're getting new eyes. And even if it's not your ideal people, because you don't intend to sell something in that range or of that topic, people are still getting exposed to you. I know the feelings about that word. Honestly, so I haven't really seen this with my blog yet, but I've seen it amongst other people. And I think the best advice I can give is finding out why it resonated with people, and if there is a way you can capitalize on that or learn from that, using that going forward. or directly reaching out to the people that engaged with you and asking what kinds of things they want to learn about and seeing if that fits within your expertise.
Yeah.
So I think, did you ask me that with a specific intention?
Well, no. So the example from One Woman Shop is like our most traffic posts of all time. Well, we have two that are like that flip flop. 100 best sites for solopreneurs. Obviously, that has such a strong connection to what we do. Perfect. The other post is how to insert social media buttons into your email signature. The people searching for that, maybe a fraction are solopreneurs who are females who want advice on running a solo business. But I would say the vast majority of those people probably don't give a crap about One Woman Shop. And so it's posts like that where we could basically do more tutorials that are going to be widespreadly can't speak widespreadly. No. They're going to be really popular and they're going to get a lot of engagement, but not the engagement that we want. So I would say basically look at your top performing post, but just because it's top performing does not necessarily mean it fits within your goals.
Absolutely. And then there's ways like when you look at that post, making sure that this is a whole nother conversation, but optimized so that people can move around your site from it. So including a PS note that takes them to a different post on your site, or having some sort of content upgrade. But of course, if it's not something that really fits within your expertise and it just happens to be something you riffed on that day, it can just be considered an outlier, and that's okay.
Yeah, for sure. So I also would love your opinion. I'm not totally guiding you with this question. But basically on finding the balance between posts that are just for fun or just kind of share expertise versus posts that are meant to guide people in a certain direction down your sales funnel. Thoughts? Feelings?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people come at their content strategy with the idea that every single post has to have like an insane call to action that really inspires a very specific result. That when you try to do that, which is fine, it really, really puts a lot of pressure on each and every post. And a lot of times that will stall people. So I find that it's really about finding a blend where you can maintain the excitement about the posts that do have those sincere call to actions and lead somewhere, or are teasing content for an upcoming launch. And then the other posts that are just kind of like, you know what, I got this question the other day and I want to answer it. Or this thought, I had this experience that can relate, so I'm going to write about it. So I think it's really about finding a blend that you can maintain excitement about.
Yeah, no, I love that answer. And I would say it's something that's troublesome for us, but it's also really exciting, is that we often don't know where people come in and find One Woman Shop because it's so insanely hard to track, in the sense that someone sees an Instagram post and they don't really think much of it. And then they see a tweet and they're like, okay, maybe I'll check that out. And then they like spend a few seconds on the site and then they come back 3 weeks later and buy a handbook. And we're like, how do we even track the sale of that handbook? But the point being that people are going to find you in all different ways. And so kind of like looping them in these little ways.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And so you can't say, and even when you do have a post that has fantastic engagement, you have a ton of eyes on it, a ton of people sharing it, that might lead to 0 sales, even if there's a strong call to action. So you could have like our social media icons post, a post that just unexpectedly does very well that you didn't put any pressure on, but then you could put your all into another post and have it go nowhere. So if you just take the pressure off at the forefront, it makes things a lot more enjoyable.
Yes. Well, and you've mentioned procrastination and stalling. So we will definitely include in the show notes our last blab, which was about, or 2 blabs ago, which was about procrastination and stalling. So important stuff. Last blab? 2 blabs ago?
We took last week off, so I think it was 2 weeks ago, but it was our last blab. But
I was right.
In fact, when I talk to people about what holds them back with their content strategy, just getting started is literally the number one thing I hear. So that procrastination is huge.
Yeah. And I would say another huge thing we hear is well, I don't have anything new to share. Someone's already shared it. Someone's already shared it in a better way. And so what we always say to that is someone out there can benefit from your knowledge, and there might be 20 billion tutorials on how to move your email over to Gmail apps, but somebody might not necessarily be searching for that until it pops up in front of them on your blog. And they're like, oh, I didn't know I needed that. So being there at the right time.
Yeah, no, and that's such a huge thing is a lot of people say, you know, I'm just adding to the noise, or should I really be writing about this if XYZ has already done it? Always remember that, you know, it sounds so cliche, but you have your own voice. That, and even so, the example you gave of moving your email over to Google Apps, nobody else had the exact experience we did when we did that. I made a really stupid mistake and messed some stuff up. Well, writing about that might help somebody else prevent that mistake. And even though there's a million tutorials out there, I followed those tutorials and I still made this mistake. So remember that your experience will differ and there's always something else you can share.
And it's relatable when you say like, oh, this is a Saturday morning. Like I get a message from Sara and we're both like spend Saturday like fixing this issue. Like that's fun. And that's, I mean, it wasn't fun in the moment, but it's fun afterwards.
Yes, I was not smiling that day.
And it makes you human. Yeah, not so much. Not so much. I sent her a Starbucks gift card. I was like, go buy yourself a venti. We always just buy each other Starbucks gift cards back and forth. But yeah, so we definitely believe that one of the biggest ways that you can be successful in blogging, and by successful I mean success in your own definition, is being personal, because people connect to that. So talk about different forms of content.
I'm psyched about this because when we were talking about topics for this blab and we decided on blogging, one of the notes Cristina wrote was basically reminding people that your content, and specifically your blog posts, don't just have to be written. And I was like jumping up and down over here because I had a post ready to go for today that basically riffed on this. So I'm going to give myself a shameless plug and put that in the chat right now. But basically, I have a lot of people that will say, I'm blogging just to blog, but I hate writing. I don't want to write. I'm not a good writer, whatever it is. And it's really important for people to realize that content is not just blogging, and blogging is not just writing. So I'll let you jump a little bit more into that, Cristina.
Well, I haven't read your post yet. I should have read that before, but I'm excited too. But yeah, I would say we have a ton of different examples, and we also have another post on the site, which we will put in the show notes, about repurposing your content. And so basically taking old content and using it in different ways. So our example right now is that some of you might actually be watching this blab as a recording on our site. And so we basically know that not everyone hangs out on YouTube or on Blab all day. And so basically getting our content in front of them through our blog, and again, not having to always write, has been awesome. And it's good for us because it basically allows us to present a different side of ourselves. It allows us to mix it up, not get too bored. And it is good for you guys because a lot of people take in content in different ways.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I put the category tag in there for those of you looking for it. We embed all of our hot seats on the blog, but just in kind of a random order right now. So if you want to play catch up, that's where to go. But yeah, the biggest thing in my opinion is remembering that not everybody consumes content the same way. So not everybody wants to read 1,000-word blog post, and not everybody wants to watch a video. Not everybody wants, I know people that don't even know what a podcast is, even though they run an online business. So just remembering that your audience will consume content in different ways. And one of the things I talk about in that post is that's, again, not a reason to stall. Like, I don't know which vehicle to choose. If you really are stuck, think about the way that you like to consume content and produce that. Or just think about the content that would excite you to produce and go that route. I love writing, and I found that I actually do love videos, but only when I'm with you, Cristina. So only when it's a back and forth and a conversation. If this was by myself, I wouldn't be here. So it's
as we saw in the intro, Sara doesn't like talking to herself.
For all of you who are here for my awkward 5 minutes at the beginning. So yeah, it's really important to remember that you have a choice.
And you have choices because you can do anything you want and you can mix it up. So another example of a time where we basically have been using our blog, as in the part on our site that is actively updated, is how we refer to our blog. We embedded Pinterest boards. So we have a monthly theme on the site, and every month we would create a Pinterest board. And then we would embed it with like a short intro. And so that's a way somebody who maybe wants to see those images, but again, doesn't hang out on Pinterest, is more following us through our site. That's a perfect way to kind of bridge the gap between all the different social media platforms.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Oh, you're frozen.
Uh-oh.
Oh, there you go. I see you. Yeah, so just a quick overview of different forms of content. So obviously there's long form, there's short form, video, podcasts, as you mentioned, other infographics, anything else you can
infographics.
Lists, listicles. People love that shit.
We've embedded Spotify playlists. Yeah, in terms of different types of blog posts, roundup posts, our weekly find series. So the list could go on and on.
Yeah, we need to do a post or a blab on all the different forms of content. But yeah, roundup posts have been absolutely huge for us because we get to showcase other people's expertise and then they share with their audience. So that's been amazing. We actually just did one. So you want to be a VA. So that was really exciting. We love
interviews.
One of my favorite columns. Yes. So I would love to talk about consistency because it's been asked in the chat. So one of the questions was, how did you change from being inconsistent to consistent? So that's in reference to, I think, your comment that you didn't used to blog consistently. And I think you and I might have some slightly different opinions on this, but do you want to talk about, first answer that question?
Yeah. So on my blog specifically, the change from being inconsistent to consistent basically came from the fact that I want to set a good example for the people that I'm selling my services to. Not only that, but I really do like to write and I really do want to share certain stuff. So for me, that just became this will make me enjoy business more. And so I'm going to do it. In terms of so I truly do believe that consistency is crucial to a blogging strategy or a content strategy in general for if you have specific purposes for your blog or your content. So I think I said in that post I wrote today, like, content is king, but if that's the case, then consistency is content's wingman, because I think that consistency is what makes content successful in a lot of cases. And that's for a bunch of different reasons. So the first is that it helps you get on a regular schedule and keeps you accountable to producing the content. The second thing is that it gives people an expectation so they know what to expect from you. And the third is that it's just a more clear path to providing value for your audience. But the caveat being that in certain cases, for example, with a personal blog that you just want an outlet for certain autonomous reasons, I don't think consistency has to be a must-have there. It's usually when I'm working with other small businesses or solopreneurs that have very specific goals that I really do believe consistency is key.
Can I just say bingo, because we say caveat in every single blog as well? Bingo! Wait, I guess it's not bingo. I just got like one little check.
Yeah, right.
No, I think those are all, I think you presented a very great case for consistency. Did you have anything else?
No, so I want to hear where you stand on it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I 100% agree with everything you just said. My concern when people talk about consistency is, one, that it becomes a source of stress. And I think that in life and in business, there's enough things to be stressed about other than blogging. So I would say if it's becoming a source of stress, reassess. Mm-hmm. Did not mean to rhyme.
I like that though. Beautiful.
This should be the Solopreneur Sanity Handbook. So basically, yeah, again, I think I see it become a source of stress for a lot of people. And I just wonder if that's productive. In terms of producing content on a consistent schedule, the other thing that I think about is oftentimes I think people then put out stuff that they're not super proud of, that they're not excited about, that's maybe not well written because they felt pressured to post. And then I would say my third piece, again, keeping in mind, I do believe that you were totally right with your argument for consistency. But the third piece I think is a lot of times we put more pressure on ourselves. So we have even experienced this where we're like, but we have to post because people are expecting it. Mm-hmm. Maybe like 3 people are expecting it. And the rest of the people probably don't even realize that we're on a consistent blogging schedule. I think it's different if you have like the daily bloggers who seriously blog maybe twice a day. Their readers know that they're going to be blogging and they come to expect it. But basically just not letting consistency be a source of stress. I think that's my number one.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that because honestly, I was striving to post on my blog once a week, and that did become a source of stress for me. And every week that I missed, I felt super guilty about it, and I spent a lot of time beating myself up for it. It wasn't until I said, you know what, I'm only going to post twice per month that I actually was like, I can maintain this without any stress. And then what that turned into is now 2 posts per month plus 2 roundups per month. And those are really fun to do. So it will know that you can pull back, reassess, pull back, stress less, and then you'll naturally build back up.
I like that little cycle. We need a little diagram or a meme.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I just wanted to share like the way that I have relaunched my blog. And so it's not foolproof by any means, but basically what I did was I knew I've been talking about this for weeks. I was like, I want to do a blog, but it just like didn't feel right. And I know that you've talked about this in terms of the Kickstart Your Content course where I was like, it just didn't kind of click. It didn't click. And then all of a sudden you're like, bam. Mm-hmm. So over the long weekend, I bought the domain, I bought the hosting, I bought a Blue Chic theme. Love us some Blue Chic. And I went a little nuts and I wrote out probably 12 posts, maybe like 15 posts, because I know this is the key. I know myself and I know how I work and I know when I'm excited, I write best. So I batch wrote a ton of posts and then I'm scheduling them out. So I'm not posting once per day. So now if I get bored of blogging, at least I can rest assured that I have posts through like June now. Yikes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm so excited. But that for me was like the key to be like, capitalize it when I do have the energy and the inspiration and then I'll lay low.
Yeah.
But and that's just what works for me.
That's definitely something. So if people ask me how to remain consistent, batching is a huge advantage if you can actually sit down and batch out a few posts. And of course, a lot of times that takes some planning if you are working with a certain content strategy, or if you just have inspiration to write a bunch of posts and you just want to bust them out. But batching gives you that buffer so that for those days when you just don't want to post or you don't feel like you have anything valuable to say, it's crucial. I love batching.
You do love batching. You wrote a great post on it. We'll definitely link that in the show notes. And then I was just going to say one form that batching takes for us with our members is we host a shut up and write session. Stole this from my friend who does like shut up and writes in Canada. But they're 3 to 4 hours of just writing posts. And so we found that we go nuts during that time and it's amazing, but we have to have the dedicated time to commit.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the other thing is even if you can't spend 4 hours batching a bunch of posts, making the commitment to say like, okay, well, once per week for an hour, it doesn't matter when that happens. I'm going to put a time on my schedule and do it. So yeah, I want to go back real quick to Char had a question earlier.
Yeah.
She said, do you send out an email to your list when you post a blog or just an email once a week that contains links to different blogs? So at One Woman Shop, we send out pretty much a bi-weekly email to our whole list. And if we have blog posts that are relevant, we will link them or we will do a mini roundup to recent content on the blog. We don't send out dedicated emails every time a blog is posted. And I know there's really, really mixed feedback about about that. So I don't necessarily know if we want to get into that now. But there are options. And even for my own list, that I've just recently rekindled as well. I'm striving not to just paste a blog post in it, but more or less send a relevant message, or tip or whatever it might be. And then if there's relevant blog content, sharing that as well.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, we, again, won't get too far into it, but there is options to cater to your audience in different ways. So one example would be splitting your MailChimp list up, or your ConvertKit. Everyone's on ConvertKit now. And basically saying, if you want a daily email or, 3 times a week email, if that's your thing, great, sign up for this list. But if you just want the highlights, sign up for this different list. So definitely segmenting your audience can be really useful for that.
And that's a whole nother blab. I'm so excited.
Yeah, we have, I think, like at least 3 or 4 different blab topics just from today.
Yeah.
But I think, again, another blab topic, but we have actually been talking about how to better promote our content. So we have the pieces that are just automated now. Every time a post goes up on the site, it gets tweeted, put on Facebook, Instagram, etc. Anytime we have multiple contributors, they all get an email with some kind of easy to share social links, as well as some of our graphics, so they can share with their community. So we definitely have some pieces in place, but if anyone has any creative ideas for content promotion, definitely feel free to drop those in the chat, and maybe we'll do a whole nother blog about that.
Yeah, no, I love this. Clearly we could talk about this all day, so we should probably start wrapping up so that we don't do that.
Suppose so. We love the blabs. Yeah, and so another thing that we will talk about if there's interest in the future is tools for effective blogging. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So any other questions, definitely feel free to drop those in the chat right now.
Yeah, thank you all so much for being on this the whole time. We hope that this has been helpful. And as we mentioned, you can find all of our blabs over on the blog if you just search the hot seat. That'll come up pretty easily. And as Cristina says, we just love going back and kind of making fun of ourselves. But we do hope that we're actually providing value the whole time.
Yes, we have fun while we're providing value.
All right. Any final thoughts there, Cristina?
Blogging. Oh, sorry. I know you're going to cut this off, but I was just going to say actually one quick thing about how blogging has helped me. And I don't even know if you know this story. I feel like you
always learning something new.
Just that blogging actually kind of helped me start my personal business, but even before One Woman Shop. So I blogged about how I got laid off the first time, not the second time, from a tech company. Got laid off from the same company twice. So I blogged about it, and I got so much response because a Washington Business Journal journalist picked it up and linked to it. So I just got all this traffic. It was like the most traffic day ever on my blog, which is kind of sad. But basically just that, again, reiterating, having that platform can really get you in front of people and can help you make really great connections. So
yeah, and I know a lot of people kind of scoff at the word platform now because it's kind of overused, but it is incredibly important. And I love ending on that story.
We love blogging.
All right, have a good day.
Bye, guys.
Bye.